Safety to the Earth. Main engine start.
Right away, Houston.
Developed on a marshy strip of land on Florida's East Coast in 1961, Kennedy Space Center has been the launch site for many of the most important and exciting space exploration initiatives. And it continues to be so today, with responsibility for shuttle integration, rollout, payload processing, launch operations, and shuttle recovery. Despite the high visibility of the launch operations at Kennedy, less is known about the labor of many scientists, engineers, and medical staff working with the life sciences aspect of the space program. The Kennedy Space Center Life Sciences program is interdisciplinary by design. Program activities often require the establishment of integrated science and engineering teams and close cooperation between the prime contractor, subcontractor, and NASA personnel. The Life Sciences at Kennedy Space Center covers three main areas. The largest is the Biological Program, the Flight Program, and Biomedical Operations. The Biological Program encompasses three separate programs: the Ecological Program, Advanced Life Support, and Gravitational Biology. The Ecological Program has conducted environmental monitoring and research of the 140,000 acres of wildlife refuge on which KSC stands since the early 1970s. NASA uses less than 6% of this sensitive environment for its activities.
The Ecological Programs on the Life Sciences Support Contract is responsible for the environmental monitoring and ecological studies related to understanding the impacts of the Kennedy Space Center operations on wildlife habitat and other environmental factors. There are several activities that occur in the program. Air quality is monitored 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Water quality is monitored at several sites throughout the center. In addition, sediment samples are taken periodically to look at the potential for accumulation of heavy metals that might impact the environment.
KSC lands not used for space operations belong to the Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, which is home to 17 federally protected wildlife species. Ecological Program's scientists study many of these species, including sea turtles, Florida scrub jays, eastern indigo snakes, wood storks, and West Indian manatees. Gathering information for habitat management and the conservation of biological diversity are also important focal points of the Ecological Program. This information is collected, analyzed, and displayed using state-of-the-art geographic information system technology. Research results are shared with the public and other scientists through reports, presentations, and scientific publications. The Ecological Program Group teams with other research groups to work on projects of significant regional, national, or global concern, such as the Elevated CO2 project with the Smithsonian Institution. By studying the effects now, NASA is helping the world prepare for future climate changes.
We need to understand the ecosystems of Merritt Island. We need to be able to have data and information that provide for making the best decisions possible related to environmental management issues.
NASA is also preparing for the future of human travel in space. When humans travel to Mars, they will continue to need food, water, and air, the basic life support elements.
The overall goal of the project is to see if it's feasible to have a completely closed biological system, in essence a closed ecosystem in space where you would have plants providing the biological requirements, the life support requirements for the humans, and all the human waste and plant waste would be recycled within the system, and you'd have no reliance on external material. The Kennedy Space Center breadboard project started in 1985 with the installation and conversion of a large chamber that existed here to test for leaks in mercury capsules.
And then fell into disuse as larger chambers were built. The chamber was then moved to Hangar L here in 1985 and refitted as a crop production system with the appropriate air handling units and ducting and controls, very much as you see it today.
The biomass production chamber has an internal volume of over 100 cubic meters, with 2 separate chamber levels and 2 growing levels in each.
The initial testing revolved around looking at basic crops, single crops, wheat, potato, lettuce, soybean, to look at how much productivity you could get out of a certain area to help determine how big a system like this would have to be, and that would help determine how feasible these kind of systems might be for long-term missions.
Recycling of inedible plant material using microbial bioreactors was added by 1993.
In the early 90s, we began to look at trying to close some of the material loops in the system. And in that, I mean, if you're going to have a closed system and you don't want to resupply materials, you're going to have to recycle water, recycle nutrients that the plants require, and recycle the carbon that's contained mainly in the inedible parts of the plant.
Today, the group continues to study new concerns, such as mixed cropping, growing 2 or more types of crops continuously in a shared environment, or human hygiene, water recycling.
Kennedy Space Center is ultimately the launch complex that will be the basis for launching to space station, to a lunar surface, or to a Mars colony.
The Gravitational Biology program is dedicated to studying the effects of environmental conditions of space on plants. This includes the effects of elevated carbon dioxide, microgravity, and alternative lighting systems.
We test hardware for plant growth applications in space. In past space shuttle missions and on the space station Mir, they found that sometimes the carbon dioxide levels can become quite high. Now, plants use carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, so plants can potentially be used as a carbon dioxide scrubber and give off oxygen through photosynthesis. However, we're not very sure what the effects of super elevated carbon dioxide levels will have on plant growth, and we're investigating that here at the Space Biology Laboratory at the Kennedy Space Center.
NASA works with an integrated team of scientists and engineers from the Dynamet Corporation and Binetics Corporation, who are very dedicated to advancing space life sciences.
Payload development begins with a period of communication between the principal investigator, the payload mission manager, and the payload science coordinator to define the science and discuss approaches to accomplishing that science in the space environment. Together, the KSC team evaluates existing hardware for compatibility with the investigator's science. Occasionally, a new piece of hardware must be engineered, constructed, and tested for biocompatibility. Through a combination of outsourcing and in-house construction, the team can develop, test, and evaluate new hardware. The prototypes can then be sent to the principal investigator for science viability testing. With consultation from the team at Kennedy Space Center, the investigator tests his science in the prototype hardware. With the science viability completed, flight hardware can be produced. As a payload approaches flight, final testing and documentation are completed. Management is briefed on flight readiness and preparations are made for the arrival of the investigator team at Kennedy Space Center. Just prior to flight, the Mission Ops team prepares a laboratory for the investigators to conduct science before, during, and after the mission. The Life Science Support Facility team assists the investigator in loading the experiment into the flight hardware. The payload is then turned over for integration into the space shuttle anywhere from several days to less than a day before launch. A simultaneous ground control experiment is conducted in the Orbiter Environmental Simulator to compare the real-time effects of the space flight environment. During the mission, environmental parameters are monitored, archived, and evaluated from the Environmental Monitoring Area at the center by members of the support team. Shortly after the shuttle lands, the payload is removed from the vehicle and returned to the Life Sciences Support Facility. At the Life Sciences Support Facility, the mission ops staff assist the investigator to fully deintegrate the specimens and prepare the samples for further study. Ultimately, the scientists publish their findings in peer-reviewed journals so that others may benefit from their experiences and further promote the space life sciences as a tool for understanding biological mechanisms both in space and on Earth.
Our team's experience with payloads from all over the world, from the Ukraine to the Netherlands, continue to be an invaluable resource for America's space station and space shuttle program.
Biomedical operations is made up of medical operations, the Biomedical Clinical Laboratory, the Microbiology Laboratory, and the 2 KSC fitness centers. Medical operations is comprised of physicians, specialists in aerospace medicine, and flight nurses with critical care experience. They have responsibilities in mission, research, and educational support.
Biomedical Office supports numerous activities during Space Shuttle launch and landing operations. During pre-flight and post-flight activities, we provide medical support to the flight crew, to the closeout crew, and other support forces, as well as visitors and guests here at KSC.
The main function of the Biomedical Clinical Laboratory is to support shuttle operations. The lab performs urinalysis, complete blood counts, and chemistry profiles using state-of-the-art equipment. The Microbiology Laboratory has functions in both clinical analysis and environmental. The clinical work is with identification of cultures obtained from patients, flight experiments, research projects, environmental laboratories, and quality control. The environmental work performs analysis on air, surface and water samples from shuttle life support systems and other environmental water sources and research projects.
There are 2 fitness centers located within the KSC complex. Each facility is equipped with a full line of strength training machines, free weights, and a full line of cardiovascular equipment. The activities of this program are managed by 3 basic components. We've got the health education component. We have personal training, which is where we have different people that come in and they set you up on an individual exercise program. And then our rehabilitation program designed to prevent injuries in the workplace and to also help people who have been injured in the past recuperate from their injuries and to get back to work in a timely manner.
The Life Sciences at Kennedy Space Center contains a multidisciplinary staff ranging from engineers, payload mission managers, plant physiologists, microbial ecologists, field ecologists, to chemists, geographic information system programmers, physicians, and fitness professionals, and a range of other specialists in diverse occupations. Material and information are integrated across these programs to bring together the united whole of the Kennedy Space Center Life Sciences Support Contract.